Mother. A meek concubine. Let stepmother call me unworthy of clothes, of learning, of being a wife. Family fell. She sent me to a eunuch. Family rose. She poisoned me for ruining her glory. Reborn. She coos. Endure. It'll get better. I shook her off. Auntie. Keep your suffering. I'm off to claim my blessings. Welcome to my channel. If you like this story, please click to subscribe. There are more wonderful stories waiting for you to listen to. Chapter 1. When I opened my eyes again, I heard my mother speaking humbly to my elder sister. Yen Yun is just a concubine's daughter. How dare she compare herself to the eldest miss? Learning to read and write is something she dares not even dream of. My eldest sister came to ask my mother for advice on embroidery techniques, but saw me scribbling in an old book I had found. She kindly offered to teach me to read and write for an hour every morning. My eldest sister paid little attention to my mother's words, only smiling and asking me, Yen Yun, do you want to study with your eldest sister? Just say whether you're willing or not, don't worry about anything else. In my previous life, I had always been taught to be submissive. Looking at my eldest sister, who seemed like a divine concubine, I felt a surge of self-doubt. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my mother biting her lip and shaking her head at me. I reluctantly agreed to my eldest sister, missing out on a golden opportunity. I remained illiterate until my death, leaving behind a lifelong regret. This time, my gaze was firm, and I would not hesitate for a moment. Eldest sister, Yuner has longed to study for years. I wish to go to your place every day to seek your guidance. Thank you, eldest sister. Before I could finish speaking, my mother grabbed my sleeve. Yuner, a girl should only learn needlework and embroidery in her spare time. What's the point of studying? How dare you bother the eldest miss every day? I pushed her hand away coldly and said deliberately, Auntie, rest assured, I will stay up all night to make the perfume pouches and handkerchiefs. I will not delay Uncle's plan to take a concubine next month. My elder sister, whose eyes were already round and full of spirit, flashed a look of anger. Hi, Auntie. What kind of person is your lowly brother? How dare he be so arrogant as to ask the second young miss of the Minister of Right's family to work and supplement the silver? Yuner, don't worry. As long as you want to go, I'll see who dares to stop you in this house. With that, the eldest sister stormed off, not sparing my mother another glance. My mother had always regarded herself as a lowly concubine. My father was the minister of the Imperial Secretariat, and he and my legitimate mother lived in harmony. They had only one son and one daughter, and I was their illegitimate daughter. We had no reason to be so subservient. It was all because my late maternal grandfather was an old-fashioned scholar who clung to outdated traditions. He taught her that men were the sky, that there was a strict distinction between legitimate and illegitimate children, and that anyone who crossed that line would be punished by heaven. He brainwashed her completely. In my previous life, the eldest madam loved to make beautiful clothes for my sister, but she never forgot about me either. My mother knelt on the ground, bowing deeply before the clothes she had brought. The lady is so kind. How could Yuner deserve such fine clothes? We should be grateful just to have the leftovers from the eldest miss. Then she gave the clothes to the lowly maidservant in the eldest wife's courtyard. She said that even the cats and dogs in the legitimate wife's courtyard were more noble than us. When I was 6, my father said he wanted me to study with my older brother and sister at the family academy to learn to read and write. My mother's face turned pale, and she shook her head repeatedly. Yuner is not intelligent. How dare I let her study with her older brother and sister? Even if she went, she would just sit there like a dummy. It's out of the question. My father could only ignore my bright, hopeful gaze and never mentioned the idea of educating me again. As I grew older, though I had no education, I had a gentle and peaceful temperament. and my appearance was quite striking. I also excelled at needlework. My father arranged a marriage between me and one of his disciples. My mother heard that the disciple was of good character and appearance, but his family was poor and destitute, with an elderly mother bedridden. Instead of worrying, she thanked my father, saying that I was a perfect match for the disciple. However, when the disciple passed the imperial examination and became a third-place scholar, my mother became anxious. In the end, without consulting me, she pleaded with my father to allow the newly appointed third-place scholar to take me as his concubine. As a scholar of the imperial court, he could marry a princess. How could eunuch be a suitable match for such a nobleman? I should remain a concubine and serve the third-place scholar. Though my father could never allow me to become someone's concubine, he couldn't withstand her constant crying and pleading, so he eventually found an excuse to call off the engagement with the third-place scholar. The life of wealth and stability I could have had was ruined by her constant not-worthy remarks. And things only got worse. My mother had always been a bit afraid of my elder sister, and under her harsh treatment, she cowered and muttered, "Eunuch, you're truly foolish. A woman like the eldest miss would never genuinely teach you. A concubine's daughter. She's just treating you like a little dog to play with. Don't believe me? Just wait and see. Within 7 days, she'll definitely send you back and never let you return." I didn't want to speak to her, so I focused on sewing the pouch in my hands. My elder sister had shown me kindness in both of our lives, but I had nothing to give her in return. All I could do now was try to make the pouch more exquisite. The next day, as dawn broke, I prepared to leave amidst my mother's constant nagging. Go to the eldest Miss's room. Keep your eyes open for tasks. Serving tea, sweeping the floor, and wiping the tables are not things to trouble the maids in her room. Do not be too eager to stand out. Even if you learn something, pretend you don't know. If you appear too clever, how will the eldest mistress view you? Remember, you're not as precious as the maids in the young Miss's room. You must never act superior or make yourself look bad. Aunt! I couldn't take it anymore and shouted. Even though I'm a concubine's daughter, I'm still a miss in this mansion. Your lowly behavior is what truly makes people look down on you. With that, I turned and left without looking back, leaving her sighs far behind me. I had thought that the eldest sister, who was so carefree and unrestrained, would sleep until dawn, but I had only waited a short while when the eldest sister had already finished dressing and grooming herself, looking fresh and tidy as she took me to breakfast. On the desk were the brushes, ink, paper, and inkstone prepared for me. I inhaled the faint scent of ink and felt at ease. An hour passed in the blink of an eye, and I strained every nerve to remember every word my elder sister told me. She was far from gentle or patient in her teaching. Occasionally, when I didn't understand or couldn't remember, she would glare at me with her large almond-shaped eyes. If you don't take the time to understand it, even reading it 1,000 times will be in vain. But her strict tone sounded 100 times more pleasant to my ears than my mother's gentle voice. I felt like a dry sponge that had been soaked in water, full and moist, my body filled with a sense of fulfillment. After a month, I could recite the 1,000-character classic fluently. My elder sister praised me for being smart with a smile. My mother still remembered the 7-day limit she had set. Every day, she seemed to be begging my elder sister to send me away. Every time I told her I had to go the next day, her eyes and brows were filled with disappointment. I just ignored her. But one day, Yinxing's sister from my eldest sister's courtyard rushed into the study and reported, "Miss. Second Miss. Lady Gao has gone to the ladies' chambers to cry, saying that second Miss has been troubling Miss for many days, and she feels ashamed and begged to go to the estate to practice austerities and pray for the lady and Miss." My hands were ice cold, and my clenched fists trembled slightly. My eldest sister embraced my shoulders. "Eunuch, don't be afraid. I'm here. She can't make decisions for you. Let her make a scene if she wants to." Saying this, she continued to hold my hand firmly and taught me the stroke order of the characters. I glanced at the pouch I had given her, which she always kept at her waist, and felt a little reassured. But the matter eventually reached my father's ears. My father was a kind-hearted man. Though my mother spent her days humbly seeking fame, he still held her in some respect. Upon hearing that my mother had cried herself unconscious multiple times over my matter and refused to leave the eldest lady's courtyard even in the rain, my father personally spoke up, telling me not to go to school for the time being. Upon hearing the news, my mother's brows, which had been furrowed with worry for days, relaxed with joy. "I told you so, eunuch. People like us are born to be trampled underfoot by others. How dare we even dream of climbing onto the shoulders of the wealthy?" I said nothing, focusing intently on practicing calligraphy at the desk. Seeing I didn't respond, my mother took the opportunity to get up and pour out the foot-washing water, leaning in close to whisper in my ear, "Mother is only thinking of your best interests. I'm telling you not to stand out or cause trouble. In this big mansion, people's hearts are as different as their bellies. Only your mother truly cares about you." I was utterly fed up and wanted to go out to be alone. But as I turned around, her arm moved slightly, and the water splashed all over me. The book my older sister had sent me was also soaked through. That book was carefully selected by my sister just for me. Every article had new characters circled in red ink, and the difficult parts were annotated in delicate calligraphy. But there they were, right before my eyes, turned into a pile of mush by the foot-washing water. I didn't bother with my soaked clothes. I used scraps of cloth to separate the pages that were still intact and hung them up to dry. But the words on the pages had all turned into smudges of ink, impossible to make out. My mother stood by, saying cold, mocking words, yet her brows were relaxed with satisfaction. My chest felt like it was stuffed with cotton. In the cool spring night, I sat outside all night, tears streaming down my face. My own mother, why did you do this? I studied so hard to read and write, not just for myself. My father was the Minister of Personnel, in charge of official appointments and evaluations. In my previous life, my own uncle claimed to be the uncle of the Minister of Personnel, taking bribes from others and promising to help my father secure an official position. Unfortunately, he was caught by political enemies and framed for aiding the deposed crown prince in selling official titles, leading to the entire family being imprisoned. In the midst of the crisis, my older brother smuggled me out through a dog hole and told me to deliver a letter to my biological mother's family, the Marquis of Ningyang's mansion. Unfortunately, it was pouring rain that day, and I walked until my embroidered shoes were soaked through before reaching the Marquis's mansion in the southern part of the city. The letter I had been clutching tightly to my chest was also soaked through by the rain, and the words were barely legible. Although the Marquis of Ningyang did his utmost to rescue me, he could not make out the clues written in the letter, leaving my family to suffer unjustly in prison for many years. If I had been able to read earlier and had written down the clues in the letter. No matter how heavy the rain, how could it have washed away the words in my heart? Life must go on. My mother constantly prevented me from writing or reading, so I wrote on the ground, with stones, and in my heart, as long as I wanted to learn. The earth was my desk, and the pond water was my ink. But one day, my mother rushed into the house with a joyful expression. "Eunuch, you wanted to learn something, didn't you? I've found you a good teacher who will teach you all the skills you need." Before I could look up, I caught a whiff of the overpowering scent of perfume. The visitor was my father's new concubine, May, whom he had brought home after his recent promotion. Though she was said to be from a respectable family, I, who had lived 2 lifetimes, knew the truth. She had been rescued from a brothel, adopted by a family as their daughter, and raised for some time before being brought into the household as a concubine. In the past, to please her patrons, she had learned to read and write. I had thought my mother had brought her here to teach me to read. But my mother leaned close to my ear and whispered, "Eunuch, may I can sing jiao nuan dance yang lu ji." I begged her repeatedly before she agreed to come teach you. You may choose whichever you wish to learn. I was so enraged that my eyes nearly popped out of my head, and a bitter taste rose in my throat. The humiliating memories of flattering and smiling before the old eunuch in my previous life flooded back. Those songs, Jiao Nuaran Yang Lu Ji, were clearly the lute tunes performed by courtesans to please their patrons. In my previous life, she sold me to the old eunuch to be humiliated. Now, in this life, does she want me to become a prostitute for thousands to ride and taste? I had originally planned to burst into tears and cause a scene, rushing to my father's side. But after calming down and thinking it through, I changed my mind. As a woman of the inner chambers, I couldn't possibly explain how I knew the origins of these songs and dances. I feigned hesitation and reluctance. "Mother, it's not that I don't want to learn, but singing requires memorizing lyrics, and dancing requires following a choreography. I can't even recognize a few characters. Perhaps it's best to give it up." My mother hurriedly pushed the seductive concubine in front of me. "My child, your concubine can read and write. Don't underestimate her. Moreover, she has a gentle temperament. Whether you learn to read with her or study dance and music, it's far better than enduring humiliation from your elder sister." So, I pretended to be clueless and followed Aunt May in learning songs, dancing, and most importantly, reading and writing. After half a year, I managed to learn most of the common characters by memorizing erotic poems and songs. On the second day of the first month, it was my father's birthday. My mother began making preparations early. "Eunuch, since we can't afford an expensive gift for your father's birthday, why don't you perform a dance to show your filial piety? But don't perform the Yonglu branch or the Huxian dance. Just dance the Qingshan dance." The Qingshan dance was created by women of the ancient kingdom for sacrificial rituals, and it was the most dignified and graceful dance. It seemed she knew that the sensual dances were unsuitable for such an occasion. I obediently nodded in agreement. This was my father's 40th birthday, and he had invited many of his former classmates and friends, all prominent figures in the capital. The young master from the Marquis of Ningyang's mansion, my stepmother's family, had also come to celebrate my uncle's birthday. At the banquet, accompanied by solemn and elegant music, I covered my face with a fan and danced the Qingshan dance with grace and dignity, earning praise from all the elders present. But halfway through the dance, the tone of the music suddenly changed, becoming light and suggestive. I spun around and removed my outer garment in front of everyone, revealing a sheer green gown that fluttered gracefully with my movements. Among the guests were many regular patrons of brothels, and they were all stunned into silence. The youngest daughter of the Minister of the Interior was performing a famous brothel dance for the guests in public. My father shattered the wine cup in his hand, furious, and waved his hand to stop the music. My stepmother had the old maid take me to her room, wrapped in my sister's outer garment. I pretended to tremble in fear, waiting for the banquet to end and my judgment to begin. But as I lowered my head to feign tears, a faint smile curled at the corners of my lips. After the banquet ended in a hurry, my father, furious, demanded an explanation. "Father, it was my aunt who invited the concubine to teach me poetry and dance. She did it for my own good. It's all my fault." I looked dumbfounded, as if I had no idea what I had done wrong. To prevent my father from disbelieving me, I recited several erotic poems from memory. You dare to speak. Shut your mouth." My father was so enraged that his face turned crimson. He swept a set of Jianzhan teapots off the table, shattering them into pieces. Excellent. The more he raged, the worse the consequences would be for him. My stepmother had already brought my mother over. My father pointed at her. Too angry to speak. You. Look at the daughter you've raised. Dancing provocatively in front of the city's elite. Master. I only wanted Yuner to learn some skills to protect herself. Who knew she would go so far as to seduce that young master of the Marquis of Ningyang? I have persuaded her 1,000 times that the Marquis of Ningyang's mansion is like a heavenly paradise. How could she dare to covet it? But she refused to accept her fate and insisted on doing this. Master. If you must punish someone, punish me. Please don't hit Yuner. I had rehearsed this scene countless times in my mind, and I had already considered the possibility that she might shift all the blame onto me. But now that it's actually happened, my heart feels utterly frozen. I once thought she was just foolish and ignorant, making poor decisions. But deep down she still cared about me. But now it's clear she's always seen me, her own flesh and blood, as nothing more than a tool to showcase her own virtue. My stepmother tried to persuade my father Yuner has always been well behaved. I don't think she's capable of such things. Let's investigate further. Before I could defend myself, my mother grabbed the opportunity, rushed forward, and knelt down on the ground, clinging to my father's legs and wailing. Master, when your wife gave birth to our eldest daughter, she nearly died in childbirth. It was I who knelt and crawled 20 miles to beg the Divine Lord of the Celestial Palace for mercy. And it was only through his grace that mother and daughter were spared. For the sake of our past, I beg you to spare Yuner. When it came to making accusations and playing the victim, my mother was a seasoned pro. Under her wailing and grabbing, I couldn't get a word in edgewise. It seemed like my father was about to believe my mother's lies. But suddenly, the curtain was violently pulled aside, and my eldest sister walked in with a group of people. Behind her, being held by others, was my most troublesome aunt. My hands, which had been tightly clenched around the hem of my clothes, finally relaxed. I heard my eldest sister speak loudly. Father, if you only listen to High Lady Gao's nonsense, our family will eventually fall into the hands of the Gao clan. My aunt was forced to the ground and confessed her despicable deeds. She had advised my mother to have me perform the willow branch dance in public, ensuring my reputation would be ruined and my marriage prospects destroyed. Then she would go to beg my biological mother, claiming I had no other options and was ready to die, so that the young master of the Marquis of Ningyang could take me as his concubine. Even if I had to enter the household as a lowly concubine, it wouldn't matter, as long as I could secure a place in the Marquis of Ningyang's mansion and pave the way for her son to become a palace guard. But my mother, to her disgrace, refused her offer, saying she had her own plans for my marriage. So she came to sway me, saying I was the most dutiful and sensible child, and that following her arrangements would surely bring honor to my father at the banquet. I went along with it, pretending to believe her lies. However, after everything was done, when she was giving money to the theater troupe, she was caught red-handed by someone from my elder sister's entourage. Father, my younger sister is so foolish. At 15, she has no sense at all and was easily deceived. If she continues to follow Aunt Gao and that filthy woman, who knows what she'll become? The truth came to light, and my aunt was beaten with 30 strokes of the rod and stripped of her lucrative position managing the household's cosmetics purchases. Her daughter, who had been serving my elder brother, was also expelled from the mansion. In my previous life, my entire family managed to help me escape. But it was this cruel aunt and her son who claimed to have connections and sent me to be toyed with by an old eunuch in the palace. Afterward, to take credit for themselves, they spread the story everywhere, ruining my reputation. Now, hearing her screams as she was beaten, I felt a sense of satisfaction. The concubine Mei, who had always been disliked by my father, was also expelled from the estate during this opportunity. My mother, relying on her ability to cry and beg for mercy, was only punished with 3 months of house arrest. As for me, I was accused of being innocent and ignorant, unable to distinguish right from wrong, and was sent to be raised by my stepmother, living and eating with my eldest sister. My father even issued a special order for me to avoid seeing my aunt, lest she corrupt me with her ignorance. My eldest sister gave me a playful wink. I went back to my room to pack my things. As I was leaving, my mother cried hysterically, "My child! Why are we so unfortunate? How could a stepmother truly care about a concubine's daughter? How will you survive in the future?" I gently prized her fingers off the hem of my skirt and whispered coldly in her ear, "Auntie, if you like suffering, then eat more of it yourself. If I stay by your side, that would be the greatest suffering of all." With that, I turned around, took my legitimate mother's hand, and walked away without looking back. From then on, I openly followed my legitimate sister in studying and practicing calligraphy, and learned household management and bookkeeping from my legitimate mother. Day in and day out, I studied diligently without rest, gradually shedding my former timid habits and growing more confident and poised. My relationship with my stepmother and eldest sister grew deeply affectionate. We spoke to one another without reservation, as close as blood relatives. To avoid the misfortunes of my previous life, I often mentioned my uncle's gambling, consorting with prostitutes, and lending money at usurious rates to my father and stepmother, either intentionally or unintentionally. My father acted decisively, declaring that the Ministry of Rights and this family had no further connection, and that whatever they did had nothing to do with the Ministry of Rights. Later, I heard that he dared to use the name of the Minister of the Interior to defraud others, and my father had him arrested and imprisoned for half a year, where he suffered greatly. After that, he dared not claim to be the younger brother of Su Shangshu. My heart was slightly at ease. But as for the future, I had no idea what would happen, so I could only wait and see. At present, my parents' greatest concern was my marriage. My eldest sister had been engaged to the young general from the Shachi general's family since childhood, but she insisted on staying with our mother for a few more years, and the young general agreed with a smile. As for me, due to the incident with the dance that year, my marriage had yet to be decided. In this life, I only wish to take my family to avoid disaster and misfortune. I do not place much importance on marriage. My stepmother sighed with a bitter smile. My young nephew has not yet been betrothed. He is the closest to me. Why not let me take the initiative and arrange for Yuner to marry him as his legitimate wife? The Marquis of Ningyang's mansion is a hereditary noble family. Although the youngest son, Xiao Qing, does not inherit the title, he is as graceful as an orchid and as upright as a pine tree, with impeccable character. Many prominent families would be eager to marry their daughters to him. In his previous life, he eventually married Princess Huaishu, and they were a harmonious couple. I couldn't possibly disrupt their marriage. Moreover, as a concubine's daughter, if my stepmother were to marry me off to him, she would owe my birth family a great debt of gratitude. She truly regards me as her own daughter. I smiled gracefully, but Xiao Qing is the most beloved son of the wife of the Marquis. How could she marry me, a concubine's daughter, to him? Mother, please do not make this difficult for yourself. Yuner, do not belittle yourself. You have been raised by me all these years. How could I not know your character? You are far superior to those legitimate daughters out there. You are more than worthy of that young man. I blushed from the praise. Mother, marriage is predestined. Who knows? Perhaps tomorrow a handsome young gentleman will arrive on a rainbow cloud to propose to me. There's no rush. No rush. My stepmother was amused by my words and burst into laughter. Finally, she said, "Enough. These days, marrying in one's 20s is quite common. Let's keep an eye out for a suitable match. There may still be a good family out there." Since my mother was scolded, she had calmed down on the surface. But in private, I was often accidentally encountered by her. She always wore a sorrowful expression. Her weak eyes, like those of an old deer, revealing genuine or feigned concern. Eunuch, just endure a little longer. Your mother will find a way to bring you back. I won't let you suffer any more at the hands of your stepmother. I brushed away the expensive cloud-patterned silk robe she had crumpled in her hands, unwilling to waste words on her, and turned to leave. But a few days later, my father unexpectedly asked me to go back and see her. The day before yesterday, your aunt said she was visited in a dream by the immortal, who warned that if I had gone out that day, there would have been a major fire. Later, I heard that the inn I was supposed to go to had caught fire, and Jiang Hanlin was burned beyond recognition. It was truly terrifying. All these years, she has burned incense and prayed every day. It seems her sincerity has moved the immortal. Let's put the past behind us and move forward. I agreed calmly on the surface, but my heart was filled with astonishment. I vaguely remembered the fire at the inn. At the time, my father had been choked and lost his voice for a few days. But how did my mother know? The dream was nonsense. I suspected it was because of that reason. She had been reborn, just like me. Back then, when our family was struck by misfortune, I was in a daze. My horizons were narrow, and I didn't understand many things. In this life, I have already urged my family to strictly restrain my uncle, but our political enemies from back then must have set their sights on our family and will inevitably find another excuse to frame us. Who was the powerful figure we offended? Where are the clues to clear our name? I have no leads yet. Perhaps I should ask my own mother, who is still determined to send me to the bed of an old eunuch in this life. When my mother saw me, the joy on her face was almost impossible to hide. Mother has been thinking of you day and night. Finally, you've come back. My son, you've suffered so much. Auntie, don't say that. At the lady's place, I had good food and drink, and people attended to me everywhere. What suffering could there be? The lady also said she would marry me off to her nephew from the Marquis of Ningyang's mansion. My son, you're still young. You don't know how difficult it is to be a concubine in a high-ranking family. I've endured all these years in this mansion and still couldn't keep you. What concubine? What concubine? I interrupted her coldly. The mistress said she would never give her daughter to be a concubine. They want me to be the main wife. My mother's face turned pale upon hearing this. What main wife? That's even worse. How could you possibly be worthy? Oh. Then father said there's a student under his tutelage who is both learned and well-mannered, though his family is poor. If we add more dowry, we could live a good life. Eunuch, I have other plans for your marriage. You must not act on your own. Seeing her growing more desperate, her fingers dug deeply into my flesh. What plans? Are you still planning to send me to that old eunuch? With his withered bones, wrinkled skin, and foul odor, to be his plaything? She froze, her flushed face quickly turning ashen. Eunuch, you know too much. She stood there for a moment, her weak eyes reflecting a foolish determination. Since you know everything, you must also know that our family will inevitably face disaster in the future. If I don't give you away, how can we save our entire family from this crisis? Since the master and mistress have been so kind to you, you should think of repaying their kindness. Why not learn to please that eunuch sooner rather than later? Your mother has no other choice. If that eunuch were to take a liking to me, I wouldn't bear to send you away either. What a utterly foolish woman, with a second chance at life. Instead of thinking about how to avoid disaster, she only cares about turning me into a more suitable concubine? I frowned and swept the needlework basket off the table onto the ground. Auntie, I've already died once. I fear nothing. If you still harbor such wicked intentions, don't blame me for following in your previous life's evil footsteps. Under my threats, my mother, weeping bitterly, finally revealed the details of what she and her family had experienced in prison in her previous life. In the previous life, after the crown prince was deposed for treason, the third prince, Shuangwen, and the seventh prince, Wang, fought fiercely for power. My father held real power and was a man of integrity. If he didn't choose a side, he would find it difficult to protect himself. But my mother said that my elder brother had foreseen this disaster befalling our family and had investigated the matter, uncovering a clue leading to a certain place. However, the trail went cold when I delivered the message. By the time my elder brother sent word from prison, the Marquis Mansion's people had already investigated. But the evidence had already been thoroughly erased. But where exactly was that place? I can't quite remember. I gripped her arm tightly. Auntie, this matter concerns the very survival of our family. Think carefully. My mother seemed unconcerned. It was something like Chinan Yuan. Perhaps a theater troupe. Eunuch. Even if you know, what can you do? As a girl, you have no place meddling in official affairs. Listen to me and learn to serve others. That eunuch's son. Chin something courtyard? I strained my brain to recall this somewhat familiar place name. Upon hearing the words eunuch's son, a flash of white light shot through my mind. That's it! It's Qin Shao Courtyard, the brothel most favored by the city's high-ranking officials and nobles. This was in my previous life. Eunuch's son tortured me while saying I wasn't even as good as the prostitutes in Qin Shao Courtyard. Which is how I came to know this place. The current emperor most abhors the notion of reincarnation and had a palace maid who claimed to have been reborn burned to death. If I were to tell anyone else about my rebirth, it would only add another layer of risk. This matter must be handled by me personally. I warned my mother not to say a word and rushed out of the courtyard. That night, after washing up, I lay beside my eldest sister on the bed. Eldest sister, there is a crucial matter I must do for our entire family, and I need your help. But I cannot tell you why, nor do I know if it will succeed. Can you trust me? My eldest sister stroked my long hair. When we were children, I was playful and climbed the tree in your eastern courtyard to pick jujubes to eat. Your aunt only cried beneath the tree without even calling for help. But you stared at me intently, looking anxious, afraid I would fall, and even stretched out your slender little arms to catch me. From that moment on, I knew you were different from your aunt. You've made remarkable progress over the years, and your elder sister has taken notice. Whatever you wish to do, go ahead. Your elder sister trusts you. Lately, the crown prince has shown signs of losing power. Once the charges are confirmed, he will be far from escaping punishment. And we must act swiftly. I have used the money I've saved over the years to gather some information. Xiao Shui, the top courtesan at Qin Shao Pavilion, has gained fame across the region with her performance of the golden hairpin. Every day, countless scholars and poets flock to see her. However, from the 5th to the 10th of each month, Xiao Shui does not perform or receive guests. It is said that she sings exclusively for a nobleman. A few days later, my eldest sister brought me to our mother. Eunuch's marriage is still unresolved. Tomorrow, I wish to take her to the Qingling temple to pray for a suitable match. I nodded obediently beside her. My stepmother, with a loving expression, held my hand. That's a good idea. Eunuch is thinking of her future. Go ahead and make the arrangements. My eldest sister took a maid who resembled me to the Qingling temple. I dressed like an ordinary young gentleman and got off the carriage halfway there. Though it was not yet noon, the Qin Shao Pavilion was already bustling with people, the sounds of stringed instruments mingling with the scent of perfume. I lowered my head and covered my face, pretending to be looking for a lover while fearing to encounter someone I knew. I found a secluded spot in the flower hall and sat down, pretending to admire the Southern music ensemble performing on stage. Glancing around, I noticed several people with vigilant expressions near the entrance of the central private room on the second floor, patrolling back and forth. I called over a waiter, "This hall is too chaotic. Move me to the central private room on the second floor, one that can see the stage." The waiter gave me a sideways glance. "Sir, that private room on the second floor isn't for ordinary people like us. You'd better stay in the main hall." "What? Do you look down on me? My uncle is the magistrate of Songyang County. Can't I afford a small private room?" The waiter chuckled. "The private rooms upstairs are reserved for the Prince of Xiang's family. If you want to show off, you'd better go back to your little county town." I understood what he meant, but pretended to be unconvinced and left the table in a huff. I went around to the back room next to the private room. This room looked like it belonged to a young lady. There weren't many people passing by here, but there was a large lock on the door, and I couldn't get in. Fortunately, the bedroom across from this room was empty, so I hid inside and peeked out through the door crack. I had planned to sneak in when no one was looking and see if I could climb through the window. But someone grabbed me ahead of time, holding a key, and quickly unlocked the door. This person looked familiar. After thinking carefully, it was him. The one who had sneaked in before me was none other than Xiaocheng, the young master of the Marquis of Ningyang. Oomph! This guy used to seem decent enough, but now he's become a debauched playboy who frequents places of ill repute. But there was another person following him, hiding in the shadows, crouching low and peering through the window crack. That person's movements were suspicious, and upon closer inspection, he was holding a cold, gleaming dagger in his hand. If Xiaocheng is merely seeking pleasure, why would someone be watching him with a weapon? Could it be he is here for something else as well? Xiaocheng and his aunt have a deep bond. In the previous life, Prince Rong and Prince Xiang were both severely injured, and ultimately, the 13th prince, the younger brother of Princess Huaishu, ascended the throne. The princess took over the reins of the government, wielding absolute power in the court, which allowed my family to clear our name and restore our honor. If that is the case, perhaps I should protect him. I thought for a moment, then put on the large red feathered silk robe hanging on the rack and quickly tied my hair into a hook-shaped style. The robe was made of very little fabric, exposing large patches of skin on the front and back. But I didn't care at the moment. I took a deep breath and walked into the room where Xiaocheng was staying, looking seductive. "Master, have you been waiting for me?" Xiaocheng, who was stuffing something into his robe, was startled by me. I signaled to him frantically with my eyes while reaching out to push him onto the bed. "My lord, you're looking for that belly band of Qiao Shui's, aren't you? It's right here on me, come and see." I raised my voice, trying to make it sound as soft and coquettish as possible. Xiaocheng quickly understood my meaning. "Xiao Yun, you know I'm deeply in love with Qiao Shui and only like listening to her songs." "My lord, you have such a cruel heart. Whatever Qiao Shui can do, I can do too. Don't believe me? I'll sing you a song called The Golden Hairpin." Fortunately, I had studied diligently the skills I learned from Mei Ai before coming here. After finishing the song, I plopped down onto Xiaocheng's lap and wrapped my arms around his neck. "Xiao Lang, just spend a night with me. Even if you still have feelings for Qiao Shui, I won't mind." I glanced sideways and saw the shadow by the window flickering. "That damn guy. He's still here? Has he gotten addicted?" Xiaocheng, sitting beneath me, dared not move, his cheeks flushing slightly. I pulled his hand to my waist. "Xiao Lang, feel how soft I am here." The gauze robe was as thin as a moth's wing, and the waist was almost sheer. Through the sheer fabric, I could easily feel the heat from his palm, but his fingers were stiff, and he instinctively pulled his hand away. "Go on. Touch me. I clenched my teeth and forced out a few words through gritted teeth. At a moment of life and death, he still cared about these trivial formalities. Xiaoqing finally snapped out of it. Miss, you sing your song with such heartfelt emotion. If I don't move, wouldn't that be a waste of your deep feelings? Saying that, he wrapped one arm around my head and leaned in, pretending to kiss me. I stood with my back to the door, daring not to move, likely because of nervousness, my heart pounding wildly. Xiaoqing's fair cheek was mere inches from mine, his warm breath brushing against my face. After a long moment, Xiaoqing finally let go of me. Let's go. He seemed to exhale in relief, but his ears were bright red. I want to know, did you also come back to life? He nodded. Cousin Yun, this isn't the place to talk. Hurry home and give this to your brother. He stuffed a small booklet into my hands and left to check the surroundings. Seeing that no one was around, he waved at me and returned to the seat of the Crown Prince of Xiong to continue flattering him. I returned to the room where I had been, quickly changed back into my original clothes, and slipped out, successfully boarding the carriage my eldest sister had prepared in the alley behind the house. The booklet was secretly recorded by Qiao Yun, detailing the Prince of Xiong's schemes to secure the throne for his father, his collusion with the Prince of Rhone to eliminate rivals, and his efforts to cultivate his own power base. The details were recorded in meticulous detail, with the beginning and end of each account echoing one another. Anyone with discerning eyes could tell that it was impossible to forge such a document. When I delivered the booklet to my elder brother, he was overjoyed but also asked me where I had obtained it. I simply said it was a chance find, and he did not press further. His gaze remained firm as he nodded at me. Obtaining this must have been no easy task. Eunuch, you have worked hard. The rest is now in my hands. Half a month later, the edict stripping the crown prince of his title was issued throughout the realm, occurring much earlier than in my previous life. At first, Shuangwen and Rhone remained in a state of mutual opposition, each gaining and losing ground. However, the old emperor suddenly exiled Shuangwen for unknown reasons, ordering him to guard the imperial mausoleum. Rhone, now at the peak of his power, sought to solidify his position by volunteering to lead a campaign against bandits in the southwest. Though the bandits were defeated, Rhone fell from his horse during the return journey and was fatally gored by his own mount. The emperor fell ill upon hearing the tragic news. He had 4 sons and 1 daughter, but the crown prince had been deposed and had taken his own life, and Prince Rhone had died suddenly. The youngest son was only 2 years old. The emperor had no choice but to recall the eldest Prince Xiong to take over the reins of government. From then on, the Xiongwen's family held absolute power, with no one daring to challenge them. As a woman, I had no official position and no stake in the political struggles of the former court. Besides doing my best to fulfill my filial duties toward my elder brother and spending as much time as possible with my stepmother, I spent my days reading the 6 secret teachings and the 3 strategies, quietly organizing the information I had gathered. The days passed in anxious anticipation. One day, my father was taking a break from his duties and was rare to be in my stepmother's room, chatting with us. Suddenly, someone crawled under the curtain, looking like a stray dog. Upon closer inspection, it was my mother, hunched over and crawling on the ground. Following behind her was May, the concubine who had been expelled from our family years ago. Master, mistress, it is I who gave birth to this shameless daughter, bringing dishonor to our family. If you wish to kill me, I will accept it. But please spare my daughter's life. Everyone in the room looked at each other in confusion, unaware of what had happened. My own mother had already sentenced me to death. It turned out that I had been frequenting the Qin Shao courtyard and had been caught by May, the concubine. After being expelled from the mansion, May quickly squandered all the silver given to her by the mansion and ended up working as a prostitute in a low-class brothel by the Yanshu River. That day, I had sneaked into the Qin Shao courtyard through a deserted alley during the day. Unfortunately, I was recognized at once by Mei, the concubine who had taught me for some time. After teaching the second young miss for so long, I never expected you to take an interest in my old trade. We all make a living with our skills, why sneak around? Mei was still as frivolous and superficial as ever. My father's face turned pale. You two troublemakers. How dare you spread such lies? Get out of here! But a young servant by my father's side rushed in. His face pale. Master. Mistress. It's bad news. The second young miss was caught by the crown prince of Shuangwen having a secret meeting with a man outside the Qin Shao courtyard. The crown prince said the second young miss is of loose character and wants to arrange a marriage for her. Arrange a marriage? What kind of marriage? To whom? The entire family was stunned. It's the eunuch who serves Empress Qin. My heart sank. The shuangwen has singled me out for this absurd marriage. He must have found out that I helped Shaoqing obtain Xiao Shua's secret scroll. Since he has already extended his hand of revenge toward my family, might the plans of my elder brother and Shaoqing have already been thwarted? I dared not think further, but forced myself to snap back to reality and focus on getting through this crisis first. My mother knelt on the ground, her body trembling slightly, whether from fear or excitement. I could not tell. If it's an arranged marriage, why must it be that eunuch's son? It must be my own mother meddling again. The attendant of Prince Xiang who delivered the message strode in with an arrogant expression. Minister of the Secretariat. You must already know the prince's intentions. The 10th day of next month is a good day. The second young miss should prepare quickly and marry on that day. My stepmother and eldest sister rushed forward to protect me, while my father stood in front of us. Even the former crown prince wouldn't dare to do such a ridiculous thing as betrothing the daughter of a high-ranking official to a filthy eunuch. If the prince insists on this, the Ministry of Rights is not a family to be bullied. My mother crawled to my father's feet. Master, how could we possibly offend Prince Xiangwang? That eunuch's son may not be a real man, but he is a favored court attendant who could help our family in the future. Eunuch can endure hardships. For our family, suffering a little humiliation is nothing. I had long grown numb to her foolish words. My father, however, was enraged by her stupidity and kicked her in the chest with all his strength. You foolish woman! Shut your mouth! Why don't you go yourself? All you do is push my daughter into the fire. Get out of here! Seeing the chaos unfolding before me, I calmly stepped out of the crowd and bowed slightly to the attendant. Yan Yan deeply appreciates the prince's kindness and is willing to serve eunuch's son. I only beg Prince Xiangwang to spare my family's lives and not harm them. Su Wang's men opened their mouths but said nothing, then left with the concubine, flinging their sleeves. My mother straightened her back with a snap, her cloudy, dull eyes sparkling with hope. She then slipped away as quickly as possible, overjoyed to prepare for my marriage. After they left, my eldest sister was so angry her eyes turned red. Eunuch, don't be afraid. Tonight, I'll have your brother-in-law secretly ambush that eunuch's son on his way home and cut off his dog's head. Let's see if he still has the nerve to marry a wife. My father also clenched his fist in anger. Tomorrow, I'll go to the imperial court and file a complaint. Let's see how the emperor can trust this tyrant to rule the country. Zhao Mama, who was by the legitimate mother's side, suggested, I have some connections with the abbess of the Water Moon Temple outside the city. We can send the second young miss there to take vows, saying it's for her parents' blessings. Even the emperor won't be able to say anything. If we keep it a secret for a few years, people will forget about it. I spoke solemnly. No, don't do it secretly. Father, mother, quickly spread the news of the marriage arrangement between me and eunuch's son to the entire city. The more people know, the better. The others were panic-stricken, but the stepmother nodded slightly to me. Yes, that's what I meant. But child, this will tarnish your reputation. It will be even harder to find a suitable match in the future. Mother. With treacherous officials in power, your daughter is willing to sacrifice her life. What is a mere reputation or marriage worth? The next day, everyone in Yi City, from the chancellor and generals to the county magistrates and prefects, received the red wedding invitations issued by the Ministry of Rites. My mother was bustling about, directing the servants to decorate the eaves and corners of the house with red silk, plum branches, and osmanthus trees. The second young miss is getting married. Why are you all looking so gloomy? If the groom sees you on the wedding day, he'll skin you alive. Even the stone lions at the entrance were adorned with large red silk flowers. Neighbors and passers-by inquired and learned that it was the youngest daughter of the minister of the secretariat who was getting married. As for the groom, he was an old, ugly eunuch over 60, on the brink of death. This extraordinary event swept through the capital like a whirlwind, stirring everyone's curiosity. But if anyone dared to ask more, someone would lower their voice and whisper, "My second cousin's third niece serves in the palace. She said that Su Shangshu is an upright man who refused to collude with Shuangwen. So Shuangwen took her concubine's daughter as a scapegoat to make an example of her." Passers-by shook their heads in disbelief. If even the daughter of the Minister of Rites is treated this way, what kind of life will we common folk have if the kingdom truly falls into Prince Xiang's hands? Within days, rumors of Prince Xiang's incompetence spread like wildfire. He appointed corrupt officials, seized land for personal gain, treated lives as cheap as grass, oppressed men and women, and committed every imaginable evil. Wave after wave of people who had suffered under Shuangwen gathered outside the imperial city, constantly kneeling and pleading for mercy. It was impossible for no one to fan the flames, but Shuangwen was too preoccupied to investigate. Princess Huai Shu, to comfort the ailing emperor, personally went to the city gates to calm the situation, using her own private wealth to compensate the affected people. Though the emperor did not explicitly state his position, he issued an edict posthumously conferring the title of crown prince on the late Prince Rong, whose death remained unexplained. He also ordered the princess to enter the imperial study hall to govern alongside the 4 regent ministers. Despite this, Shuangwen remained defiant and unrepentant. After all, he was now the only adult prince, and there was no more suitable heir to the throne in the emperor's lineage. At the palace banquet, Prince Xiang, drunk, spoke recklessly, accusing the old emperor of being senile and allowing the eldest princess to participate in state affairs. Asking if he intended to destroy the ancestral kingdom, the emperor was so enraged that he spat blood, pointing at him and saying that if the throne were passed to him, it would be the end of the kingdom. The next day, the emperor issued an edict demoting Shuangwen to commoner status, confining him to his mansion, and forbidding him from leaving until his death. At the same time, an imperial decree was issued to the entire realm, officially designating the heir to the throne. I had assumed it would be the same as in my previous life, with the 13th prince ascending the throne and the princess serving as regent until he came of age. But to my surprise, the old emperor had directly designated Princess Huai Shu as the crown princess. On the 3rd day of the 1st month of winter, heavy snow fell, and the kind and diligent old emperor passed away, plunging the entire nation into mourning. After the funeral, Princess Huai Shu ascended the throne. Her first act as empress was to purge the corrupt officials who had served under Prince Xiang, imprisoning many of them. She also returned the land and properties that had been forcibly seized to their rightful owners and compensated the affected citizens. The people's doubts about the female emperor gradually turned into praise, and they submitted to her rule. Her father entered the cabinet to assist in governing the country, still upholding his upright and sincere heart, often engaging in heated debates in the court. My eldest brother requested from the emperor a position as a local official in a barren border region, determined to serve the people and bring peace to the countryside. My eldest sister, due to the national mourning period, was able to stay at home for another year. causing my prospective brother-in-law's face to darken further. He spent his days counting the days until he could finally marry my sister. I often accompanied my eldest sister and our stepmother on outings to the nearby countryside, and our days were quite carefree. Eunuch's son was imprisoned for leaking information to outsiders and was subjected to daily beatings. However, thanks to the intercession of Empress Dowager Qin, a secret edict was issued, summoning my mother to join him in prison to attend to the elderly and frail eunuch's son. As we were leaving, I went to see her off, and she cried out, begging not to go. Auntie, did I not cry and beg back then? Did anyone care about me? You speak so highly of eunuch's son, yet now that you have the chance to enjoy it, why are you unwilling? If you wish to die, go ahead. Choose your own method. It would be far more merciful than how I was poisoned with arsenic back then. My mother fell silent, gathered the valuables she had saved over the years into a bundle, and left with the eunuch who had come to take her away. Her face filled with sorrow. Winter had passed, and spring was approaching. On this day, the emperor summoned me to the palace for an audience, though she sat securely on the high throne. But the perilous journey filled with swords and daggers had left me too shaken to think much. After the formalities, I glanced up at this woman who had become the first female emperor in 1,000 years. But I saw Shaoqing standing by her side. In this life, he had accompanied her to the end, but he wouldn't be the only one by her side forever. Would the emperor appoint him as her consort? Or as a concubine? But recalling that reckless encounter with him in the brothel, a pang of jealousy welled up in my heart. I shall establish a system of female officials. Women may enter the court and deliberate on state affairs alongside men. Su family maiden, would you be willing to become the first female official of this dynasty? My heart raced, but I bowed respectfully with a solemn expression. This humble maiden is honored by the emperor's favor and is willing to serve the nation with all my strength. Very good. The empress nodded with a smile. There is one more matter. Previously, you sacrificed your reputation to bring down Prince Yang, which was a noble deed. Now that Shaoqing has asked me to marry you, if you are willing, I may grant you to him in marriage. I know that Shaoqing has long admired you. Though he may seem delicate, his character and intelligence are commendable. He would make a suitable match. Of course, the decision rests with your own heart. My eyes widened. What? They weren't that kind of relationship? Shaoqing stepped forward and whispered to me. In the past, we were merely allies plotting together. Marrying each other was merely to conceal our true intentions and facilitate our plans. After speaking, he took a step back and bowed deeply to me. Shao has long been captivated by Miss Yan Yun. I humbly offer you a lifelong commitment, hoping to spend the rest of my days with you and unite our two families. Will you accept? The sunlight streamed through the palace halls, casting a warm glow on his high, straight nose and his long, raven-like eyelashes. I looked into his eyes, which were filled with a gentle smile, and 2 blushes spread across my cheeks as I smiled back. Thank you, Your Majesty, for this marriage. I accept. Shaoqing's side story. That year, Prince Yang usurped the throne and exiled my family to a remote, harsh land 3,000 miles away. My aunt's family was even more brutally executed and their heads displayed publicly. When my parents were tortured to death on the exile route, I managed to survive, but I only wanted to end my life. Suddenly, a voice from the heavens offered me another chance. The second time, I schemed and plotted with all my might to save my family. But my aunt's family still couldn't escape imprisonment. On the day of the raid, my young cousin from my aunt's family endured great hardships to bring me a message. Zhao Zhu. The rain pelted her face, but I could still see the tears streaming down her cheeks, like jasmine flowers shattered by a torrential downpour. Later, I assisted the princess in overthrowing Prince Rong and Prince Xiang, finally rescuing my aunt's family. But soon after, I heard that she had been tortured for years and ultimately died at the hands of a woman in the inner quarters. I summoned that voice again and asked if he could give me another chance. He said that if we tried again, there would be many uncertainties, and the outcome might not be any better than it is now. Better. My father retired early, but he often sighed deeply in the dead of night while stroking his sword. My aunt and uncle suffered greatly in prison, and though they were not yet old, their hair was already white. My cousin, who once had such high aspirations, now only finds solace in nature and has vowed never to enter public service again. Princess Huaishu never took that fateful step. And then there was that jasmine flower, shattered and scattered in my heart. I quickly made up my mind to try again. Though I had lived 2 lifetimes and knew some information, this time I had to plan more carefully and take greater risks. Fortunately, she was growing steadily in the barren soil of the inner courtyard, clinging to life with all her strength. This time, she not only protected herself but also saved my life and helped me weave all the schemes into a perfect circle. The feeling of not having to fight alone was like this. After everything was over, I finally got to rest properly. The rest of my life, I just wanted to spend it with her, sleeping together under the moonlit sky. But she found her passion and spent her days busy helping the emperor with the imperial examinations and selecting female officials. Only at night, after the court was dismissed, could she spend a few more moments with me in the red curtains of the bedchamber. In the morning, I sent her off to court, watching her slender yet upright figure in her green official robe fade into the distance. How wonderful! The little jasmine that once trembled in the wind has grown into a bamboo shoot breaking through the earth, bending but never breaking. Bamboo leaves remain green all year round. We will meet again in the morning and evening. The end.